Play Better Ultimate is sponsored by Savage.
Hey, a backhand can be a really helpful throw in Ultimate, especially if you're looking to put up a big huck. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use some slow motion photography to make sure that we can get the most power, accuracy, and consistency out of our backhand throws so that we can play better Ultimate. Hi, I'm Mick Stukes. I'm the youth director for Charlotte Ultimate. We're out here with Bryce McAvoy, who's a college captain and a club captain here for Queen City Thunder. And we're going to see how Bryce throws a backhand. We're going to examine some of the mechanical components to see what makes him a successful backhand thrower. You ready to do this thing, Bryce?
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay, let's take a look at this flat backhand throw. What we're going to see with the flat backhand, again, we're going to use it primarily as a reference point as we see the trajectory here. Pretty much goes straight to the target. We're going to use this as a reference point to learn about some of the base mechanics that we use when throwing any backhand. We're going to see what Bryce does with his shoulders, with his feet, and in terms of timing to get an effective and consistent backhand throw. Let's take a look at this grip. What we're going to see here when Bryce winds up for this throw, he's got 4 fingers firmly grasped around the outside of the disc. He's not going to cheat his index finger on the outside rim of the disc. A lot of players do. Really tends to sap the power out of your throw when you want to go longer. And as he comes around here, we're going to see that he's got a thumb on the grip rings of the disc too that gives him a really tight grip. All right, here we're going to see from the front view, as he releases this flat backhand, it's actually going to come out at a slight angle of depression. But that's okay, just like with the forehand, because what's going to make this throw flat is a nice smooth and flat follow through. As we motion track his hand, it stays in a very straight line from where he had released the disc, which is going to make that disc stay flat throughout its trajectory. One of the other things that we can see through motion tracking his hand, when he released the disc, we saw the back of his hand, and as he continued through his follow through, we now see the palm of his hand at the very end of the follow through, which indicates a strong wrist snap, which is going to help you develop consistency in your backhand throws. All right, let's look at the timing of some of the mechanical elements of this throw. Bryce is going to start by rotating his shoulders through and then snapping his elbow and wrist in quick succession to get velocity and spin on the... All right, let's look at the timing of this backhand from a different angle here. As we see, he's going to shift his weight to his right foot, and as soon as he does, he's going to start to rotate his hips. We're going to see it get highlighted here in just a second. There's his hips, and then his shoulders are going to go, and then his elbow, and then his wrist. The timing of that, being able to shift your weight and rotate your hips and shoulders and elbow and wrist in sequence, is the key to success. All right, let's see specifically what he's doing with these shoulders as he throws his backhand. You can see when he starts his throw, he's almost pointing his shoulders at his target, and then he's going to rotate them all the way through to the point where his chest is opened up to his target at the end of the throw. Rotating your shoulders all the way through the throw is the key to getting consistent power and accuracy out of your throws. Okay, once more with the top view, we're going to look at specifically what's happening with the disc as he throws. When we motion track this, you'll notice the disc is moving in a straight line. And what he's doing is, as he's rotating his body, he's adjusting the angle of his elbow and wrist to maintain the disc in that nice straight line to keep the disc from turning over as he releases it and adds more power to it. All right, I think we got the basics covered. Let's go ahead and take a look at this outside backhand. And as we motion track it, you'll see it's got this nice arcing trajectory that goes to the outside and then back to the receiver. Let's take a look at what mechanical adjustments we have to make in order to get that nice trajectory on the disc. All right, we're going to look here from the front view, and what we can see is he's actually going to release this at a slight angle of depression. It's downward a little bit, but the angle of the disc, the outside edge of the disc is up, which is going to help along with this follow through that is arcing downward. And you see his wrist is just barely pointed upwards, or the palm of his hand is just barely pointed upwards as he follows through as well. And we're going to look in the next sequence about how we can position our bodies to get a good torso follow through that drops downward like that. All right, what I want to look at now is the relative position of the disc to his shoulders, because when he releases this disc, it's way out from underneath his shoulders. It's a good distance away, which enables him to rotate his shoulders through this follow through. All right, let's take a look at this inside backhand. The inside backhand can be a really useful weapon in Ultimate, and as we motion track this, we'll see it's got that sort of arcing inside trajectory. Let's take a look at some of the mechanical adjustments we got to make to produce this inside backhand. All right, looking at this from the front view, what we're going to see is he's going to release this at a pretty serious angle of depression here. That disc is tilted extremely towards the inside, and his follow through is going to be steeply upwards. As he snaps that wrist, we can motion track that upward follow through, and we see that the top of his hand is really more facing upwards now as he snaps his wrist in an upward direction. The other thing you'll notice is he's bent his torso over in order to accommodate for that angle that he released the disc at. That's one of the keys to throwing a good inside-out forehand, is the ability to bend your shoulders over the throw, which we're going to look at in this next shot. All right, let's look at that again, and what we want to pay attention to this time is look at where the disc is relative to his shoulders when he releases the disc. His shoulders are right on top of this throw, and what that's going to enable you to do is work your upper body, work your torso through this follow-through. All right, let's take a look at this backhand huck. What we're going to see as we motion track this thing, it's going to start out with some inside edge, but the spin that Bryce puts on it sort of lets it flatten out there, and it sort of drops nicely way down the range there. What we're going to look at is how do we incorporate extra muscles, because with our arms and our elbows and our shoulders, we're not really going to be able enough. So what we want to do is we want to recruit our legs and our shoulders to add extra power to this backhand. All right, so we're going to look at this huck from a front view, and what we can see here is we're going to compare this huck position Bryce to a flat backhand position Bryce. And the huck Bryce, which is not in red, is compacted, he's low, he's ready to explode and use his legs to really rip his torso through this throw. And as he comes through to the point of release, you'll see he's going to put some inside edge on this disc. We really need that inside edge, because if it's not inside, the disc is going to want to turn over and really start to blade at the tail end of this huck. Okay, let's look at this huck from the top view, and what you can see is compared to the flat backhand, he's got the disc coming from farther back, and he's doing that by rotating his shoulders around more and pointing his back towards the target before he releases it. Giving him that extra rotation is how he's going to draw extra power into the throw.